Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Talking Balls with me, Richie Kennedy, aka the Chief Freak of Fitness Freak, and also Toos, lecturer on the Leadership in Workplace Health and Wellbeing certificate. And I am joined by my co-host, the one and only Dermot Maloney, the second most important import into Galway after Henry Shefflin. Hey, Dermot.
I can't deny it, Richie.
I'd say so. We're joined by our guest today. He is an ex-Carrick United player like myself. He has spent the past 5 seasons with the League of Ireland champions Shamrock Rovers. All-around good guy. And doing my research for this, and anybody I spoke to about Lee, they had nothing but unbelievable things to say about him. So, Lee Grace, welcome to Talking Balls.
All right, lads. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Good to meet
you.
Lee,
just before we go, before we start, I have a quick little story to tell you, which you may not be aware of. But I made my debut for a Carrick Premier team against Clonmel Town in Kilsheelan, so obviously halfway point. Yeah. And that day, I played in midfield alongside Naylor O'Neill, you know Naylor, and the two centre halves that day were like they were kind of like the Vidic and Ferdinand of Carrick United. So one was Magic Welch, who was obviously like the Ferdinand, and the Vidic was the one and only Johnny the Hens Grace. You're fine.
Really?
There we go.
Yeah. Going back a few years there, so.
I was probably talking 1995, 1994, 1995. I was about 16. So now Johnny's a bit of a stalwart. Obviously, he's been stalwart with Carrick United since I've known him, and he's gone on to do great things for the club, and the club has gone on to do great things. Well, he's just taking you back to Carrick United. So obviously, that's where it started for you when it came to your soccer career.
Yeah, geez, gone back as long as I can remember. I was at the academy there, I'd say at 5 or 6, and I stayed there until I was, I'd say I was 20, 21. That's when I signed for Wexford, so I stayed with Carrick nearly all my junior years, really. And I loved it there. Obviously, I learned everything I know there, and I've still have many friends in Carrick, and I'm still friends with a lot of the coaches as well that I grew up playing for. So I had great times at Carrick, and fond memories.
Because in terms of your soccer journey, and it wasn't a traditional way where like we spoke about just before we came onto this recording, that you didn't really reach a lot of the kind of milestones underage in terms of you didn't get on the Kennedy Cup team under 14. And I know I think you made the Waterford. Did you make the Waterford youth panel then under 18?
I did. That was kind of the first team I ever made. Obviously, I always went for trials. I'd say from under 11 upwards up until under 18. I always went for the trials, but always told I was too small or not good enough. And but obviously, every year I kept trying, and eventually, when I was 17, 18, I made the youths panel. It was kind of, you could say, all the best players from all the teams in the league joined up. I think it was called an interleague or something like that, and you played all the other counties then, all their best players. But I think that was my first time making any sort of team, so I was tough to make it.
So then obviously you made a kind of decision then to join the army. So and I suppose obviously with the army there is a lot. Obviously it's there's I suppose it's fairly well known when you join the army, that kind of first year or the first couple of months. Apart from obviously moving away from home probably for the first time, which is going to be a challenge anyway. But it tends to training or the kind of recruitment stage or the early stages in the army tends to be quite tough. I suppose brutal maybe might be a term, but maybe quite tough.
Yeah, I think it's the first even 12 months, and you're living away from home. You rarely get home. You might get the odd weekend off here and there. I kind of had to take the backward step on the soccer side of things when I joined the army. I'd only get home the odd weekend. I wouldn't have been training, and I played the odd match here and there. But you could say it was tough. All right, 12 months of hardship. I think I was at my lowest weight ever when I was in the army. I was 76 kg or something like that. I was like a rake. So you could say it was tough. But no, it was enjoyable. I've a lot of good things to say about the army. Still a lot of good friends from the army. So I very much enjoyed my time in the army.
And so what would you say then, what was about the army that you liked? Obviously, from watch you play in senior games, you're quite physical, you look fit, you're always looking, you're always in good condition. So what was it about the army for you that was kind of that you enjoyed?
During the later years of school, I always said I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't the best student in school, you could say. So I was looking at different routes. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But then a few of my friends joined the army, older friends, and they said they loved it and they told me all about it, all the outdoor stuff and the fitness side of it. And it kind of caught my eye, so I applied for that. That didn't go straight forward either. I think I tried 3 times. I eventually got in the 3rd time. But yeah, as I said, when I got in, I loved it. All the outdoor stuff, the fitness. You're kind of doing different things every day. You're not kind of just sitting on your arse and doing nothing. Kind of you're active the whole time, and that's what I enjoyed about
it. Lee, so one of the things I talk about in my classes a little bit is kind of culture in the workplace, right? So you've been through a few different dressing rooms, kind of as a professional, as an amateur. You've been in kind of the army culture as well, and you've experienced all that. I suppose, like, what for you what's a good dressing room? Like, what's a good dressing room culture, and can you kind of define why sometimes the dressing room works and sometimes it doesn't?
Good question. I think a good dressing room is just having good lads and good senior pros kind of running the show. Here at Rovers now, I think there's a lot of senior lads, and we kind of run the dressing room. We're kind of left to ourselves, and we kind of run it, and it works. I think you kind of have to leave your egos at the door. Obviously, everyone has some sort of an ego when you come into a dressing room, and I think you just have to leave it at the door and just work hard and be a team. Obviously, things don't go well the whole time, and there's going to be bits of arguments here and there. But I think once you iron them out and you don't let them drag on, I think that's when the senior players kind of come in. But you kind of iron things out when they happen and move on. You're kind of a team. You're striving for the same things, so you may as well be striving the same way. You know what I mean?
I get you. And so when you say iron things out, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, if there's 2 players, say, on a training pitch, they're disagreeing over something, a bad tackle or someone not tracking a runner or something like that. I mean, you can't leave it. It happens on the training pitch. You earn it out on the training pitch, and then as you're walking off the training pitch, everyone is in good spirits again. Because as I said, you're on the same team. You want the same things, and I think if you have that bickering, that can kind of like poison the dressing room, and you don't need that, especially at this level.
Yeah, I get you. And if something does run on a little bit longer and it sort of sets in, have you been in situations where you've had to kind of resolve that or figure out a way to get that good culture back again?
To be fair, no, my time at Rovers, not really. No, nothing has ever gone on that long. Look, it's a big squad. Not everyone's going to be best friends, but you just have to have that relationship with people that you're going to work for each other. You're going to put your body on the line for each other. And once everyone is agreeing to that, then I think it's fine. Look, you don't have to be best friends with everyone, as I said. That's never going to be the case in any dressing room. But I think once you're willing to work for the man beside you, and as I said, put your body on the line, I think everyone can agree to that.
Yeah, I think there's only so much we can take from your workplace compared to where, say, myself or Richie work, because you can't go into an office and have a full-on Barney with the fella or the girl sitting beside you. But there's certain things we can take. You did mention relationships there, which is something that would apply to any workplace situation. And I was just interested listening to a podcast recently about your manager and the kind of his career when I think he was at Arsenal, wasn't he? And he was kind of the next big thing when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling that he'd be the type of guy who you'd want to do well for, that you'd kind of want to succeed for. Is that true?
Yeah, you could definitely say that. I think everyone here has a good relationship with the manager. There's not too many lads who have a bad thing to say about the manager. He's very open. He's very honest. He'll tell you when you're good, and he'll tell you when you're bad. But he's always there if you want to chat. He always asking how things are at home and how's your family and all that. And I think that's good, because as you said, you want to impress him. You want to do well for him, because he's interested not just in your footballing side, but in your outside life as well. So you want to run through a brick wall, as they say, for him.
And like in your experience, is that Is that unique, or is that unusual, or is that a kind of a fairly standard approach now in League of Ireland management?
Just going off my experience, I think it's all I've known. Really, the last 5 years, anyone that's come in will say the same about the manager. Not sure it's the same in every dressing room, to be fair. I'm sure some people don't like their managers, but that's just the way it is. As I said, you can't like everyone in the dressing room. But anyone I've come across in this dressing room has said the same things. And even my previous manager, Shane Keegan, was pretty much the same. Very open, very honest, and very open to conversations about your outside life as well. So that's all I've known anyway so far.
So Lee, so obviously Shane then. So Shane brought you to Wexford Youths.
Yeah.
And then he brought you from Wexford Youths, and he brought you to Galway United, and then obviously ended up then at Rovers with Stephen Bradley. So like within the squad or within Shamrock Rovers, you're obviously one of the nearly. I know you're only 29, or you're one of the elder, say, pros within the club. So, and it's, I presume you have like a leadership role yourself, apart from standing as captain as well, with Rovers. But would you say you've taken bits and pieces, say from Shane Keegan, or from Stephen Bradley, or maybe from other coaches you've had down through the years, maybe Carrick United, or and that you kind of molded into the way that you kind of maybe set the example or lead when you go training day to day or match days, or how you conduct yourself maybe when things don't go well in a match, or if the team is going through maybe a bit of a low phase?
Yeah, you could say that. I think just hard work is kind of what it all falls back on for me, Richie. I just try to set an example to the younger boys within the dressing room. That's always down to hard work and being willing to learn and coming in with an open mind. Because I think you see a lot of fellas now these days, especially younger lads, that they think they know it all and they're coming in and they're not willing to take on information or anything like that. But I think if you come in with an open mind, that's how I see it. Willing to learn, willing to work hard. And look, every leader is not very vocal. I'd be a bit vocal. There's definitely more vocal lads within the squad, but I think you don't have to be vocal to be a leader. I think you can be a leader by setting an example in how you train, how you look after yourself day-to-day basis, nutrition, recovery, all that side. And I think that's how I see myself as a leader. Just setting examples every day in the training pitch, working hard, doing the right things, willing to learn. I mean, I'm 29 now and I'm still learning every day. It's too often you see young boys coming in, they think they've cracked it. So yeah, that's how I see myself as a leader.
Yeah, because it's I train the Nair football team and the Forma Water, and the S&C coach. I'm one of the players with the Nair is a guy called Thomas O'Gorman. Now, Thomas O'Gorman has played, he's 36 now, and he's been playing senior football and senior hurling with the Nair Forma Water since I think he's about 17, 18. But he played with Waterford senior football, I'd say maybe 10, 11 years. So he's pushing on, he's been there. But any time at a training session, and I move, players are moving from whatever part of a warm-up to the next part of a warm-up, or into any drill, he's the first person there. He's over there, he runs over, ready to go. And then often you have the case then you have other people walking, chatting, straggling behind, looking for the water bottle, looking for the minibands. But Thomas O'Gorman, and it kind of sets that standard. And I think culture often is the kind of small things done, kind of supposed on a kind of consistent basis, and having certain players, and like you're talking yourself, Lee, about setting the example by being in good condition, looking after yourself, your attitude and your application to training, and just going for my own example in the Nair for my water. A guy like Thomas O'Gorman, I'm sure there's plenty of Thomas O'Gormans in every team, but they kind of set a tone and a standard that everyone else tries to kind of follow in behind. And like you're talking, Lee, about having people that, a leader that may be quite vocal. Thomas O'Gorman is not a vocal guy, but everyone sees what he does. And when it comes to a match, championship, he's delivered season after season after season. And at 37, it takes fair doing. So yeah, so culture and leadership, I think they're quite intertwined in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Even we had a gym session there earlier on, and you see the more senior lads always harping on to the younger lads to clean up after themselves. Just small bits like that, because the coaches are there to coach us and train us and whatever. They're not there to clean up the place after us. And just small things like that, I think, go a long way. Even after training, your bibs and stuff, just putting everything away, making sure the place is tidy, just setting examples like that. And as you said, if you keep doing it day in, day out, the younger lads will eventually follow on and learn from you.
Keeping on the kind of the theme of relationships there, Lee, is it fair to say that your workplace is primarily male? Are there any women working in, say, in the back room, or is it exclusively male?
It is all males really. Yeah.
I know, like from my own experience teaching, sometimes you get classes where there's a dynamic, and then you get others where it just doesn't work. There's no sort of something missing, you know. And I often find that the times where something is amiss is often where it's like maybe an exclusively male environment or a male class, for example. You don't get the sort of the yin and yang, or the balance of having maybe a few older kids, you know, a few older guys and younger guys, a few women mixed in with the men, because they sort of keep each other under control. In an all male working environment, I suppose this is a slightly delicate question, but we hear a lot of talk about kind of toxic masculinity now. Is that something that you've come across in your work environment?
And
do you know what I mean by that?
Not really. No, I don't think you see that. No. I kind of know what you mean. I'm kind of getting the gist of it. No, I don't think you see that within our dressing room. No. Yeah, no, I don't think you see it in the dressing room.
Again, it's just, I suppose, where maybe banter go, you know, a bit of slagging and messing, but it goes a little bit too far, and people are maybe a little bit inappropriate. And
yeah, no, you see that a bit in dressing rooms. Look, obviously, we're all men, and there's going to be banter within the dressing room. But look, there is a lot of banter that probably, if there was females there wouldn't be as much, because obviously there's a line you could cross. But no, I don't think I've ever seen a lad cross a line, and if so, they'd be pulled up on it anyway. But no, but obviously, look, there is banter. It's a male, all males, and you know how males are now, they have a bit of crack. But no, there's a line there, and it's not usually crossed.
Yeah,
but yeah, and I was just saying that, Dermot, and I think, look, I'm trying to go back in the 90s when I was involved in, I suppose, professional soccer, mid-90s. There wasn't the culture, I would say. Again, now I'm working with GA. I probably spent most of my last couple of years working with GA teams, but obviously it's an all-male GA team. But I go back to, I suppose, mid-90s, late 90s. I would say there would be lines crossed in terms of, if you want to call it banter, but I think the last couple of years, there's definitely been more awareness of behavior around and talk and language around when it comes to talking about women or and that type of area. I think it definitely has improved, and there's a huge more awareness of it and what is acceptable and what is not. And like Lee said, there's always going to be banter. You put any lads together, it's a constant. Like we're trained tonight at 8 o'clock. So from when we get there for the warm up, lads are going to be taking the mickey out of each other from when we get there, and and we're supposed to have a barbecue tomorrow night, and half the team are kind of a bonding session, half we're not turning up. So there's definitely going to be banter over that, or someone's going to get killed over that.
I think in my experience as well, dealing with, say, younger guys, a lot of our students are 17, 18, 19-year-old young fellas. And I definitely think there's been a bit of a sea change in the last few years. The guys are more open to kind of talking about things that maybe our generation would not have been comfortable talking about. And even saying, like, I get students coming to me after class saying, look, I'm struggling, my mental health is not great, family situation is not great, I've got personal difficulties. And it seems much more like just an accepted thing to do among that generation, whereas maybe when I was that age, it'd be the last thing you'd be kind of open to talking about, especially with your, with kind of, managers or lecturers or whatever it happens to be, I think that change is there.
I think you see that a lot now within our dressing room. You might have a lad that's, you don't know he's going through at home or anything like that, and he might come in, you can see he's down and he's quiet or whatever. And I think a few years ago, lads might turn around and tell him to man up or whatever. But I think these days now, you could put your arm around him and ask him, is everything all right at home or whatever, you're all right, stuff like that. But yeah, I think times are changing, and people are becoming more aware of that, because obviously mental health is a big thing now. And I think a few years ago, as I said, you'd be told to man up and grow up or whatever. But now these days, I think you can't put your arm around each other and ask, is everything all right?
Yeah.
So Lee, like you said, so you're now 29. Obviously, you're in the peak of your powers. But give or take another kind of 2-3 years, once you hit 30, with soccer or most sports, hurling, rugby, you kind of get to 30, 31, 32, and people start writing you off, and when you're kind of looking towards retirement. Do you see yourself going into management, coaching or management, once you do kind of eventually kind of retire?
I've always said no, just because I tried coaching. I'd say I was 22, 23 when I was at Wexford. I think I went into Carrick United for a few sessions coaching, and it just wasn't for me at the time. Now maybe I'm that bit older and a bit more mature. I see the game differently now, obviously, because all the managers I played with and all the tactics, I see the game better. Maybe there's actually a few of the lads now doing their UEFA B through the FAI at the moment. I probably should have done it this year, but hopefully next year I might jump on and do that and see if I enjoy it. And if so, then you never know. But a few years ago, I definitely would have said no. But now that I'm a bit older and I see the game a bit better, I might throw my hand at it. Yeah.
And just say, I know we're talking hypothetically, but what way would you kind of see yourself as maybe as a coach or as a manager? Is there any kind of style, or how would you see yourself as what type of manager?
Actually, look, I think everyone these days are going to say they'd like to get the ball down and play in Pep Guardiola style. But as a manager, as a man manager myself, I'd like to think I'd be open. I'd be honest to the players. I'd be approachable. But I think if someone needed to be told off, I'd be able to tell them off as well. So I think I'd have a bit of the both. But look, all hearsay. I don't know when I get myself into that situation. I'll only know. But that's how I see myself now, anyway.
I watched back your Clear the Head chat with on the Shamrock Rovers channel, Lee, and it's really interesting. It's a great concept. It's a great idea. In fairness,
it's good. It's good to be fair. There's good people have to do it now, so it's taken up a bit.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I wouldn't have found it only for yourself, but he said something interesting in it. It was kind of a throwaway comment, but I think it was something to do about, when you leave the dressing room, you hope that people would have nice things to say about you. I don't know if you remember saying that, but
yeah, no, I remember that.
Yeah, like whether you go on to management or not, or as a player, like you're very exposed to criticism. Like it only takes one mistake and suddenly you're on your social media and you're the bad guy, or you're not good enough, or you're getting old, or you're never good enough, or whatever rubbish people kind of go on with. Like how do you sort of marry the two sides of yourself, where you all like to be liked, but on the other side you're open to criticism for one poor performance? So how do you cope with that stress, that public stress?
Look, I think you have to take the good with the bad. I always say you can't don't get too high with the highs, or don't get too lows with the lows. Try keep it somewhere in the middle. Because look, you could play well one week and you go on social media and you're the best player in the league, and then next week you have a bad performance and you're the worst player in the league. So I think you take it as it is. Look, everyone has their opinion. They're all open to their opinion, and it's fine. I think I'm the best judge. I know when I play well and I know when I play bad. I don't need someone to tell me. My brother and my father, to be fair, they're as honest as I am. They'll always tell me if I've played well and if I haven't, but I don't even need them to tell me, because I know myself coming off the pitch if I've done well or if I've been bad. So just with the criticism, I think you take it as it is. Everyone has their opinion. You can't let it affect you too much, as I said.
And are you able to block it out? Like, have you techniques, or is it just something you're able to do?
I don't really have techniques, to be honest. No, I just look at it and sometimes I laugh it off. Sometimes I might even agree with it, because I know myself if I've been bad. And then you see if you've played well, you could see people saying stuff that you're this, you're that. You have to laugh that off as well, because, as I said, you can't get too high with the highs. So I try to keep it somewhere in the middle.
And in your job, like, you're dealing with those kind of peaks of stress. Like, you've got a big game, cup final, whatever it happens to be. I know if I'm busy at work, right, I'll be lying awake at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh, geez, I must do this and I must do that or whatever. How do you cope then with, the impending cup final or big game or whatever it happens to be? Like, how do you manage that stress side of it?
I think I've after getting better over the years, to be fair. When I was a bit younger, I'd be really nervous and I'd even struggle to sleep sometimes. But as I'm after getting older and a bit more experience now, look, if you prepare right, you look after yourself in the build up to the game, eat right, prepare right, sleep right. Obviously train hard. I think the game then will look after itself. I think if you start to slack on the stuff I've just mentioned, well, then you're opening yourself up for the criticism and for bad games. So I think, look, you can prepare right as much as you want. You're still going to have your bad games here and there, but more often than not, if you're doing the right things before the game and in the build-up, more often than not, you should be fine.
You feel more confident.
Yeah.
Listen, the last question I want to ask Lee is, again, it goes back to a comment you made, or you were in that conversation. We talked about, I think you just bought a house and you'd moved in, and there's a bit of settling down security. But your job, by its very nature, is there's no long-term tenure there. Like I'm sure you'd love to be at Rovers for years to come, but you could possibly move in next year or the year after, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all get to the point of our life where we want to kind of put down a few roots and feel secure and move on with our lives and families or whatever it is that we want to do. Like, do you find that side stressful, that not knowing where your income will be next year or the year after, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I'd say now, if you asked me that question probably 5 years ago, I would have said I'll worry about that when the time comes. But unfortunately, the time is starting to come now, so I have started to think about that kind of stuff. Only last year, I did an online course. It was during lockdown, I think, of a pharmaceutical, a level 6 pharmaceutical course. It was only, I think it was 9 months or something like that. So I did that and I passed that. So I have some sort of fallback there. If all comes to all, I'll have that. Obviously, I might go down the coaching route, but that's not secure. You need to get into a good job for that. So, yeah, it is a bit stressful thinking about it, to be honest. I won't lie, especially now with the house and stuff like that. You have to think about the future. But definitely in the next few years, I'll definitely properly think about that and maybe do some sort of other course or something like that to have a few options when I retire. So I'm not just kind of going out there with nothing to fall back on.
Lee, we're going to finish up with 3 questions.
Right.
So the first question is, who is the best player you've played with and who's the best player you've played against? So best player you played with first.
Best player I've played with, it probably has to be Jack Byrne. Yeah, Jack Byrne. I've played with a lot of good players. No disrespect to everyone I've played with, but Jack, I think, is just a different level. He even came on the other night and he's only back from injury. He hasn't really trained. I mean, you can give him the ball anywhere and he won't lose it. He'll find a pass. He sees passes that no one else sees. I don't think if I was watching it on the telly, I'd see the pass. So, yeah, I think it's Jack Byrne.
Jack Byrne. And the best player you played against?
Easy answer, Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Oh, you have to drop that one in.
Yeah.
Lee actually texted me to ask him that question. So when was that, Lee?
That was 2020 in the Europa League qualifiers. I was brilliant. Look, obviously, you're looking at the draw. Before the draw, they were one of the options we could have gotten. You were kind of hoping you'd get them, but at the same time, you were kind of hoping you wouldn't because you want to get through. But look, when the draw was done and the build up to it, it was brilliant. Played against some top players, and obviously Zlatan was the pick of them. Yeah, he was brilliant. Even on the pitch, he was always bantering us and giving us shots off the ball. And I think I'm not sure what player he said it to, but he said he could come over to his house and be his gardener. That's the kind of banter he was throwing out. But I thought we did a great job on him as a 3 centre-half partnership. I know he scored, but other than that, I thought we tamed him a bit.
Yeah, that's definitely one to tell the grandchildren. Okay, second question. What is your proudest moment? Now, that can be in sports, life in general, whatever. Proudest moment.
I think not sport would be probably getting the house with me girlfriend Emma, because it's not an easy thing to do, especially as a professional footballer in this country. We went through a lot of processes of banks rejecting us, all that kind of stuff, and I think just to get that security and get it over the line, I think was a very proud moment for me and Emma. So that definitely not sporting related. But sporting related, I think the FAI Cup final in 2019. That was one of the best days of my life. Out of everything. All of my family there, friends, and the way we won it was just brilliant. Penalties, obviously, it's not a great way to lose, but it's the best way to win. And my granddad was there. He was my number one supporter. He died a year or two ago now, and he was there as well. So I'll cherish them moments forever.
Mickey Barry.
Yes, Mickey.
Mickey Barry, number one fan.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. So 3 dinner guests, dead or alive, that you would like to have around to your house.
God, good question.
And why? 5 minutes on each.
The last few years, I've gotten really into the golf. Now, I'm no good at it. I try, but I love watching it and I love playing a bit. So I'd have to have Tiger Woods around, I think. He have a few stories to tell, I'd say.
Definitely.
A toss up between Messi and Ronaldo. I'd probably go Ronaldo. Just love Ronaldo growing up watching him, the way he looks after himself, how hard he works, even to this day, the shape he's in. So I'd have to have him around. And who else? Matthew McConaughey, favourite actor. Love watching him in films, and he seems like a bit of crack as well. So
that's great motivational stuff on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I see. It's brilliant.
Yeah, Jeremy, we might get Matthew McConaughey on here someday, will we?
Pencil it down, chalk it in. We'll get him on. And we'll get Zlatan after that. How about that?
Yes, Zlatan. Yeah, Lee knows him anyway.
I'll give him a bell, so he's free.
Yeah,
I give him a shout there.
When I'm doing the garden.
So listen, Lee, when I was going speaking to you, just to finish up, I spoke to your aunt Jackie, and I said, Jackie, can you tell me anything about Lee? And so she said, he is an unbelievable role model. She said, not just to my kids, she said, but so many of the kids around Carrick and Shore. And just by the way, and the time he gives to Carrick United when he's around, in terms of presentations or any stuff that's going on involved with the club. And he's an absolute role model. And I also spoke to Bill, my best friend Bill Welsh over in London. So Bill said to me, he said, both of us went for trials for Waterford soccer under 12 team. And he said, Bill said that he was more Gab, but he actually ended up getting on it and you didn't.
Yeah, I tell that story a lot, actually.
What's that?
I tell that story a lot, actually.
Yeah. And then Bill went down the GA route. And obviously he said, but Lee persevered, and he said, and it kept going on. He's got to where he's got to now. And he said, if resilience is a word that's it's thrown bandied around all over the place now. But he said in my mind, he said Lee Grace is the absolute definition of resilience. So anyway, look, Lee, I haven't known you. I didn't know you before our chat today, our kind of conversations and chats up to this. But listen, you're you're a gentleman, and all the people I spoke to about you have said exactly the same thing. So I wish you all the very best for the rest of the season, Lee. And I sure thank you from myself, from Toos, from the second most famous man in Galway.
Lee, really pleasure to meet you, man. It was lovely talking to you, and I'll be watching the Rovers fixtures for the rest of the season. I'm a Rovers fan from now on.
Lovely, another Rovers fan.
And Lee, remember, you got to ask Richie Toll who's got the best white teeth.
Right, I'll screenshot this here.
Screenshot it. All right.
Thanks a million, Lee.
My pleasure.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Thanks very much.
Speak to you soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.